Hey everyone, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria back for another video. Today we're going to talk about calories in versus calories out, the most popular accepted diet theory of how to gain weight or how to lose weight. And I'm going to talk about how there's more to it than just when you eat more calories than your body burns, you gain weight, and when you eat less calories than your body burns, you lose weight. Okay, so calories in, calories out basically assumes that our body is a machine, um, and your weight can be created based on a simple mathematical equation. Now, what that doesn't take into account is body fluctuations as well as hormones. So, hormones are a main regulator of your body size. So, whether you're overweight or underweight or at a normal weight, your hormone levels are going to dictate that. Now, I'm going to go into more detail describing what hormones are at play exactly here. So, let's say, for example, you are eating a 2,000 calorie diet and you're 150 pounds, and you decide you want to lose 20 pounds, so you're going to go on a diet where you're losing, let's say, a pound a week, which looks like about a 500 calorie deficit a day, I believe, because it's believed that you need 3,000 to 3,500 calories in order to lose 1 pound. Okay, so if this was the case, okay, this person would lose 20 pounds in 20 weeks, correct? 1 pound a week. But if you note, and that's just from, okay, they're jotting all of their calories into a calculator like Chronometer, and they say, okay, I'm going to cut this food item, let's say it's a smoothie, out of my diet and eat everything else the same for 20 weeks in order to create this 20-pound weight loss. And the problem with that is so many things. One, most people don't eat exactly the same thing every day, nor is that healthy to do. And when it comes to calorie calculations, one, they're not always accurate. Two, there's a because they're not accurate, there's going to be an error for either like 500 more calories that person has eaten in that day or 500 less calories than that person has eaten in that day. So there's definitely a range when it comes to calorie intake and figuring out exactly how much you're actually eating. There's also your functioning metabolism and how is it functioning? Have you been eating sufficient calories up until that point where you decided to restrict? Have you been constantly yo-yo dieting? Are you genetically a slower burner? Have you been an athlete? There's so many factors that go into play that factor into our basal metabolic rate, right? Or our metabolism as a whole in terms of how many calories we're burning. So some people will go, there have been weight loss studies done doing, this calorie restrictive model that have been disproved just simply by keeping calories the same, but changing the foods that people are eating. And that's really the take home here, is that it's more important when it comes to weight loss what you're eating over the quantity of food that you're eating. So the reason why I've been so successful on a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet, eating unlimited calories, is because of what I'm eating. I'm eating fruits, I'm eating vegetables, and I'm eating starches. They're all high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein foods. These foods, because they contain carbohydrates, they fuel our metabolism and they allow for a dietary fat deficit to be in place. So when it comes to calorie burning, within our cellular metabolic machinery, we are burning carbohydrates and fats pretty much simultaneously, other than when we are eating and maybe for like 30 minutes after we eat while our body's absorbing all of that nutrition. But other than that, when we're doing anything, we're burning carbs and fat. At rest, it looks like 30% carbohydrates, 70% fat. During exercise, 30% or 50% carbohydrates, 50% fat, but that burn rate is higher. So, what I'm trying to say here is that there's no way to be able to control your weight loss exactly without disrupting some kind of balance within your system. So a calorie restrictive diet, getting back into that, that person who loses those 20 pounds over those 20 weeks, let's say that actually happens, has actually lowered their metabolic rate, and they're going to plateau. So let's say they maintain the 1200 calorie diet. Well, at some point, they're not going to lose weight anymore because hormone levels are going to override that loss process to prevent the body from becoming unhealthy and becoming underweight, in order to maintain homeostasis. So, what happens, particularly when you diet like that, where you're under eating, where you're eating below 2,000 calories a day, where you're not receiving sufficient carbohydrate energy in order to generate cellular energy or cellular ATP, and you're not receiving enough nutrients from your food because you're under eating, your body systems, one, are going to raise cortisol, so you're going to be dealing with a chronically elevated cortisol level. And the reason why that happens is so you become insulin resistant in order to preserve the energy that's on your body. So it's the mechanism at which we slow our system down. Okay. The other thing that happens is blood levels of leptin, they dip. So they become very low, and that actually increases our appetite. So the intricacy of all of these regulatory systems actually prevent us from becoming dangerously underweight. It's all about survival, okay? So all of these mechanisms become in place. So the person who lost the 20 pounds now struggles to not gain weight, continuing to eat their 1200 calorie a day diet, because now they're insulin resistant. So their body is storing more of what they're eating as fat instead of burning it as fuel. And their appetite is actually ramped up as well because the blood levels of leptin are low. Okay, if you want to learn more about this, I wrote about it in my coaching program. You can sign up for that in the link in the description box, but you can also get Neil Barnard's Turn Off the Fat Genes. He goes into the clinical research behind why calories in, calories out doesn't work. And it has a lot to do with this. So, just to round out here, the reason why people end up yo-yo dieting is because they lose all this weight, and they like the fact that they lost weight, but they can't maintain it. So then they eat more. They honor their appetite in order to, reverse, to become insulin sensitive. You have to eat more. To decrease cortisol, you have to eat more. To bring leptin levels back to normal, you have to eat more. And you have to gain weight in order to reset all of this. So then people go on their diet, and then they can't do it anymore because of the metabolic disruptions that have occurred, as well as thyroid hormone production goes down as well, which lowers the metabolic rate even more so. So then they have no choice but to gain weight to reset everything. And that's what I call metabolic damage recovery. Okay. So then you start eating more to reset things, but then you don't like the weight gain. So that's the hardest part for most people to get over when it comes to metabolic damage and dieting and getting, restoring the system after a diet, a calorie restrictive diet, a carbohydrate restrictive diet. You have to go through a period of weight gain. How much weight gain? Generally, people gain back the weight that they lost restricting. It's just a natural phenomenon. The body is reacting to starvation, and now it's reacting to refeeding, and it doesn't want to go back to starvation. So generally, people will gain back to the weight that they lost and then some. Okay. Uh, that is what I experienced when it came to my own personal metabolic recovery journey, metabolic damage recovery journey. And that is the case for most, everybody. We're all subject to the same thing because it's a built-in survival mechanism of our body in order to be alive. So let's wrap this up now. And a lot of people are saying, okay, your results, your weight loss results are all because calories in, calories out, because of how much energy that you burn every day. What I will tell you is that I have been eating the same amount of calories, 3,000 calories a day. I'm giving my body sufficient energy, sufficient carbohydrate, calorie energy every single day. And I have been for a decade. Okay, there's been absolutely zero calorie restriction. A calorie restrictive diet for an adult woman is generally under about 2,400 calories a day. Okay, so anything under that, you're not getting enough carbohydrate calories, so you're not giving your body enough glucose to create cellular ATP for your body to work properly, and as well as nutrients. So you need all those micronutrients that come with that calorie intake. Okay, so my calorie intake has ranged from 2,500 calories to all the way up to 5,000 calories a day. I was eating 5,000 calories a day when I was in my refeeding stage, when I was putting weight back on, my appetite desired it. But then eventually my appetite came back down because my blood levels of leptin regulated. I became more insulin sensitive, and my cortisol level came down. So my weight came down with that, all because I reset my system. I spent time doing it. It took me about 2 years. But then to get all of, to be where I'm at now, it took me the rest of those 8 years of mastering my own metabolism. So you have to put the work in initially to support the metabolism with enough calories. And then from there, you end up with more energy to do things, and then the rest of the weight just falls off. And I don't even think that, this hasn't been my experience because I haven't been underweight eating this way because I eat sufficient amount of calories. I think that the body just finds its ideal lean body weight and it stays there, unless you're doing too much exercise, so your output becomes too high and you become underweight. But when you're listening to your body, so recently, because I've now dipped down to a BMI of about 19, my exercise, my activity level has actually dropped off. I mean, it's in winter now, so I think that you can just find that balance naturally by listening to your body and doing what feels best. So I always honor my appetite, and that's what happens too. You get appetite regulation. Somebody in the comments from my video yesterday said, well, what if somebody eats 10,000 calories a day? You're going to have a really hard time eating that many calories a day every single day unless you're in refeeding, unless you were anorexic. And even then, you won't continue to be able to eat that amount of calories without forcing it. Your appetite's naturally going to come down to where it's supposed to be in order for you to take in the energy that your body needs to repair itself, to produce energy, to work correctly. That's what this is all about. Okay, so it's not calories in, calories out. It's all about supporting your metabolic and hormonal functioning in order to get the results that you desire, to have an effortlessly ideal lean body, to have total and complete food freedom because you have very regulated appetite signaling. It's doing the perfect amount of exercise every day. I probably do more fitness than the average person, even though it really only looks like an hour a day most days of the week, because I don't have a 8 hour a day job that I work. So I'm active. I like to walk my dogs. I like to ride my bike. I like to play with my kids. I'm doing housework. So I'm burning that energy elsewhere. Whereas somebody who's working an 8 hour day job, they're going to be burning energy at their job. So the energy that you take in becomes relative to your output. So, you know, if somebody's completely sedentary, they're shorter than I am, they're going to have a hard time eating as much as I do, but everybody is subject to eating enough, which generally doesn't look like anything under 2,000 calories a day, even if you're like a 5 foot, 100 pound. So anything under that is not conducive of health for an adult. And all of my texts from my earning my master's degree in nutrition program all suggest, you know, an adult female needs about 2,400 calories a day to meet energy and nutrient needs. So that's it for this video. I hope that all makes sense and kind of helps to clarify some of the confusion around the calories in, calories out model and why it doesn't work. The last thing that I want to add here is that it's not about calories in, calories out. It's about fat calories in, calories out, because the fat we eat is the fat we wear. So you can eat an unlimited amount of carbohydrate calories so long as your dietary fat is kept very low, because when we have a dietary fat deficit, then it forces our body to tap into stored body fat in order to burn that as fuel with carbohydrates. And in order to burn body fat efficiently as fuel, we need to be taking in enough carbohydrates to run that cellular machinery. So I hope that all makes sense. It's not about the calories, it's about what you're eating and the fat that it contains. And then making sure that your protein intake is not too high either. Again, we want to go for sufficient amounts of protein, not too much protein, which most people in Western society, they eat too much fat and too much protein and then go on these calorie restrictive diets when really all they need to do is change over to a high carb, low fat, low protein diet, and they'll get the results that they desire. So that's it for today's video. Leave any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.